guys, how's it going? Welcome to this week's recap video. It has been so nice here in Eastern Oregon over the past little bit, like the past week or so.
Highs in the high 40s?
Yeah. I think we're supposed to get to 50 maybe this weekend or
Yes.
close
Yeah.
to 50, 49, something like that. Oh, I love it. That is my jam. Like 50 to 70 is my favorite temperature range.
Yeah.
And it's just
We
awesome.
we can have that temperature for actually quite a while in the spring, early spring it feels like.
Yeah.
We can have a pretty long spring, which is really nice.
And I think that I've seen people post from around the United States, at least, saying that we've had a warm up, except for in the northeast.
Well, yeah. What was it? Mount Washington recorded like negative 110 or 105 or whatever it was. That is brutal.
I can't even fathom what that would be like.
I don't think you can be outside in that.
Will everybody have to replant their gardens?
Well, I think that's probably in like upper elevations. I'm not sure that anybody actually lives there.
Anyway, it has been super nice here, which we are very thankful for. I mean, the sun is shining right now. I'm heading down to the garden center when we're done with this recap video because first load of spring color arrived yesterday, and I have some things on that order that I ordered that I'm excited to
What
bring
all did they
home.
bring in?
There's things like a lot of hellebores, pansies, primrose, bellis, saxifrage, tulips, hyacinths.
Nice.
You know, springy
Yeah.
things. I'm so excited about it. Also, one last reminder that Erin and I will be at the Northwest Flower and Garden Festival in Seattle this week. So Thursday, the show starts Wednesday, February 15th, and runs through the 19th. But Erin and I will be there on the 16th for a meet and greet at 3 p.m. in the stage area. So if you happen to be in the area, we would love to meet you. I mean, it's just a simple meet and greet. Just love to say hi. So let's jump in to the first video from this week, which was I think the fourth installment in our Beautiful Garden series, which is a viewer submission series. You guys have sent so many wonderful submissions, and it's so fun to look through them. So first comment was from Northern Garden. Hi from Finland. I've noticed many times in your videos you talking about trees in such admiring ways, and that really has made me think about my own view about them. 75% of Finland is covered by forests, and I myself really have been taking it for granted. I of course enjoy trees and forests, but I've never really even thought that most people don't have them, in this quantity at least. So I guess thank you for making me even more thankful of the beautiful country I live in. By the way, Finland is the most happiest country in the world, maybe because of the forests?
Maybe?
That is a thought. That would certainly make me happy.
Yeah.
Christina said Aaron should create his own garden area. We've talked about this so many times. Start to finish completely on his own. That would be fun to see. Well, Aaron is bringing back the hay racks this year. I'll be involved in some capacity.
Kind of, yeah.
But
It was more like, hey, I think we could do the hay racks here. And you were like, okay.
yeah, sounds good to me.
Yeah.
And I think, we're just going to take a different approach
Yeah.
on that.
It'll be fun, though.
It will be, yes.
It'll be a riot of color.
It will be, yes. Alicia said, what kind of hibiscus are those at 2252? The leaves and flowers are unbelievably huge. By looking at it, I would say I don't know exactly what variety it is. So maybe the owner of this garden could chime in if you happen to see this question come up in this video. It looks like a cherry chocolate to me. In terms of bloom color and size, they have that kind of bicolor white and pink, and it looks like a swirl with that dark throat. Also, the leaves on this one appear to be darker because you can see a red hibiscus right next to it. And that one has more bright green leaves, and this one has a deeper green, almost kind of like a burgundy look, and that is indicative of cherry choco latte. So that's what I would say.
Well, Proven Winners has like, how many summerific hibiscus do they have?
Oh, quite a number of them.
Like 10, 15 or
Yeah,
whatever. So you could look at the website. There's probably other companies that sell them as well.
I think there's another one called Spinderella, which is gorgeous, but I think and it has kind of that same swirl effect, but it's a little lighter in color and has green leaves. But this one definitely has the cherry chocolate look about it. Debbie said, Rebecca, question. My Rebecca is just way too much for my small space. Can you divide it like other perennials? Yes. Is spring the best time? I think really, yeah. I mean, spring or early fall is a great time to move plants around. I move plants all the time. You guys know this. I mean, we've destructed so many areas and we've had to move so many things that it is definitely more of a shock on a plant if you do it once the temperature warms up and the plant has more foliage and blooms to support. It can shock them pretty good, but as long as you get as much of the root ball as possible and keep them really wet, I mean, success rate is pretty high, I would say. I think not getting enough roots and not keeping them watered is probably the number one thing why they perish, but definitely take after them as early as you can. Beverly said, how would you build the lollipop trees in your area when you have terrible winds sometimes? It would have to be like really locked down.
Yeah.
Like a post in concrete, first of all. And then you'd either have to do a metal plate with welded, like you weld one of the metal baskets to it, or weld it down with straps, or screw it down with straps to a metal plate. You could also do a wood post and do a metal plate on the top and then strap it down with that metal strapping stuff.
Yeah.
It'd be pretty easy, actually, to
I think it would stay, but I do think the post in concrete probably is necessary.
Yeah. The plants might suffer from the winds, but they suffer anyway from the winds, no matter where we put them. Bev said, will you have a video to show when you start your dahlias in pots? Am I starting dahlias in pots?
I don't know, are you?
I think maybe I said I was going to. Yeah, actually, now that I think about it, we did dig 75 dahlias because there were certain, we're trying to overwinter them in the ground, which I think we're going to have no problem with them coming up. It's been miles. We have, a mile of mulch on top of these things, plus that plastic layer. I think we're going to be okay. However, I was a little stressed because sometimes we do have some cold snaps that are severe, and I thought we have a lot invested in this dahlia patch, and there are some varieties that I really do love. I think maybe there was 5 varieties or so that I just thought, if you die, that's fine. I don't need to have you in this garden anymore. But 75 of them I love. So we dug them up and we put them in the greenhouse, you guys, but they accidentally got put right below the heater in the greenhouse, and a lot of them dried up. Some of them are fine. So I did at one point think I would pot those up early so that I could have some growth on those for when those start to come up. I could pop them in the holes.
Oh, sure. And then you'll know if they're...
Yeah. So anyway, that probably now I would like to get them going because I'd like to have some nice big plants.
Yeah.
Maybe not now. Maybe March. I keep forgetting it's not March. It feels like March outside. Yeah. Blake said, lots of trees need to come down on my property before I have room to fit my high tunnel. Any suggestions on clearing land? The property used to be a working farm about 20 years ago, but the land has grown back up to the forest status. Help. Find somebody with equipment.
You need a Chad.
Yeah.
Find yourself a Chad. Here's what you need is you need a skid steer with like a mulching attachment on the front of it. Oh. Have you seen those videos of them like clearing? I don't think you can clear super large trees. I think you have to cut down large trees, but to a certain diameter, I don't know, maybe like 8 to 12 inches in diameter, you can take after it with a mulching attachment on on the front.
That's a pretty good sized tree.
Yeah, I might be wrong about the dimensions, but they can do pretty good sized trees. It's impressive to watch them like mulch down trees.
Well, here's what we would do if we needed to clear land. We would probably call Natural Tree Service first.
Yeah.
Like people who have the proper equipment. We don't have the proper equipment to clear anything really. Like one thing maybe that's not very big. So they would come through and clear out like all the big stuff, and they do it so fast. I mean, this tree service that we have here is like top notch. And then we would call Chad and say, can you do whatever else needs to be done in here? And he would come in with a skid steer. We just don't have the equipment to do it. If you do, that's awesome. Watch some videos with the mulching attachment, I guess. Daniel said, you guys should really do the succulent fountain. Could you name a few hardy succulents? I'm having trouble knowing which ones I can leave outside. There are several hardy succulents. I mean, of course, sempervivums give you that kind of rosette echeveria look. There are so many different varieties out there. There are lots of varieties of sedums, both upright and ground cover types that are beautiful.
Are there, hold on, I'm sorry. Are there different types of sedums that are not hardy and hardy? Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's so many sedums out there. And there will be sedums that are hardy down to zone 4 or maybe even 3, like the stone crop sedums. And then there are sedums that are rated like zone 7 or 8. So
Is it the same with sempervivums?
No, I think all semps are pretty like zone 5.
Okay.
Maybe there's some 6s in there. I don't know. I'm not like, super well versed on all the varieties of hardy succulents out there. But you know what you can do? You can get on Mountain Crest Gardens website. They specialize in hardy succulents. We've had numerous things come from them throughout the years, and they're a wealth of knowledge. But there's also like I don't know if I'm saying this right, Orostachys, zone 6. There are some hardy cacti, and I don't know how to pronounce this one either. Opuntia. desert skies. We have a lot of that in our immediate area, actually. They're like the paddle type cactus with the big thorns, but big, beautiful blooms.
Wow.
And the last one that I can think of just from the top of my head is Delosperma, or ice plants. Those are really nice as well. Okay, next video was Antique and Garden Center shopping day with my mom. We got out of town for the day. It was such a nice day. We actually didn't even start making our video until after we had, our coffee and our drive, and we went out to breakfast. It was just such a nice day. We hit our favorite spots, and we did decide that the next time we go, we're gonna go the opposite direction. We're gonna go toward Baker City, which is a really neat, like, mountain town kind of. It's a little further than Boise is away from us, but the opposite direction, like maybe an hour and a half or so away.
It's really like the first town in Oregon that you hit. It's, what is it, like hour and a half, 2 hours even?
Maybe.
Depending on.
You hit a different time zone when you travel there.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that, that Ontario, our town, is cut out and lumped in with Idaho for a time zone.
Lee said, Laura, I wonder if the train mold would work as Jell-O molds. That would be impressive. That would be impressive. And I wish I could think of all the different options when I'm faced with the decision on whether to purchase this
in the heat of the moment.
Yeah, that would be really fun.
We don't really do a lot of Jell-O. Like, our kids don't eat Jell-O.
Have our kids had Jell-O?
I don't even know if they've once had Jell-O.
I wasn't raised on Jell-O, that's for sure.
I remember having a little bit. It wasn't a lot.
Like at friends' house when the Jell-O jiggler thing. I remember going to friends' houses and being like, what is this? This is awesome. But we rarely had juice, or, it was like milk and water and... Well, Benjamin's a
water drinker.
Yeah.
Like, we've tried, milk or juice or other things, and he's like, nope, water.
Yeah, he'll have the occasional apple juice. Samantha likes juice a lot more than Benjamin does. But yeah, I just recently made pudding with the kids, chocolate pudding, and I don't make pudding very often either. And we don't even really buy the pudding cups or any of that. Samantha, well, first of all, she loves to help cook. She says, help and cook.
Yeah.
Help and cook. And the fact that the pudding turned into pudding so fast, that was like a big deal to her. And then she just chocolate all over. I just let her sit there and just eat out of the bowl. It was fun.
Yeah.
Anyway, but that's a good idea. The Jell-O molds.
Yeah.
It'd be fun if you did them different colors. Carson said at 21 minutes, you said Wilson's. Did you mean Andrews? No, I meant Wilson's. So the Andrews Garden Center that my parents have, right across the street where they have a parking lot and a great big storage building for seed, that used to be a grocery store called Wilson's when I was a little kid. And eventually Andrews was able to buy it. So it's been known as Wilson's since, I don't know, since forever, for as long as I know. And it's kind of nice to have a name for every building. So like there's the Quonset, there's the chemical shed, there's the seed plant or the block building, there's the Wilson's, and you know exactly where. It's kind of like here, you have the greenhouse or you have the Hartley, you have the studio or the flower shed.
Yeah.
It's just nice to be like, hey, I'm going out here, or this or that. It's easier to be able to communicate with people. C. Starkey said, do you do a rent-a-mom business? I love your mom and I want to learn to antique shop. Only trouble, she is 2,000 miles away. Anyway, keep up the antiquing videos. She is the biggest enabler ever, you guys. Like, when we go, I don't like to close shop at all. I don't know if you guys can tell that about me or not, but I'm not a big one on clothes shopping. But when I go with my mom, I buy so much more. Oh,
that's good. I always tell you, because you never buy clothes, I'm like, yeah, go get some stuff.
I've just been rocking. It's funny because I know what angles, like for a video like this, I have like a long sleeve black t-shirt that's got like a huge hole back here. It's still a good t-shirt. I'm like, well, the camera's never going to pick that up because I'm just standing right here.
Yeah.
I don't have any holes in this shirt. But in that one I do, and I still wear it.
Yeah.
I need to sew it. Mike said, did Aaron enjoy his wings?
Oh, they're the best wings.
They're like the crispy. They call it something crispy in the...
Yeah, they're crispy on the outside, and they have just the right amount of sauce, and they're moist on the inside. Like,
and even
not
good as
too...
left, like kind of takeout. You didn't get to eat those until I got home, which was like an hour and a half later.
You put them in the truck and it's cold outside.
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of like throwing them in the refrigerator. But yeah, they're great. I love those wings.
Emmeline said, always enjoy watching you guys do antiquing together. And by the way, you love your mom's coat. Where did she order it from? She's had that coat for as long as I can remember. I don't even know that there's any tags in it anymore. I could ask her, but it's like damask, or I think, is that the right kind of print? I don't know, but it's kind of like this burgundy brown with cream.
Back when I was a fashion designer.
Yeah, yeah.
We called those.
Yeah, it is a fun coat. Sherry said, where do you buy your shrimp? I've never in 50 years of marriage ever seen frozen shrimp you had to devein, especially on two sides. Okay, so shrimp have the vein, which all frozen shrimp almost, I would guess, are deveined. But there's that line on the underside, like in the curl, that's like their digestive tract? Nobody ever takes that out.
Yeah.
It is disgusting, and I will not eat shrimp that have not had that removed. So I will never order it from a restaurant or eat it if anybody else has prepared it, unless it's been Monica, myself, or my mom, because all three of us will take the time. It takes a long time.
Just adds extra flavor.
Oh, so gross. I can't even. Ugh. Also, shrimp, if they're like, they can have a weird texture.
Yeah. Well, all seafood can be good or bad.
True.
Like, depending on factors.
Yeah.
And around here, we're so far from the ocean that, you know.
Previously fresh.
Yeah.
Frozen, previously fresh. Okay, next video was 6 container combinations to love. I ended up talking about 7 in that video, but I just wanted to sit down and share some plants that did really well for us last year. Containers that I was very impressed with, because that doesn't always happen. I feel like every year it's kind of a mixed bag. We try out new things all the time because there's all these new plants coming out, and we get to try them. A lot of times we get to try the year before, which is so fun. But sometimes I put them together wrong, or I don't put the right things together, and they don't take, like, some of them do.
Well, it's part of trialing.
Yeah. 50-50. Yeah.
It's 50-50. Well, like that one that you, what was that? Salvia? That like pink salvia or whatever?
I tried that for 2 years in a row.
What was it called?
Unplugged pink.
Unplugged pink.
I'm not a fan of that plant.
It's like, you really have to know that it's a really small plant.
And it just doesn't, like, I put it in the ground, like not competing with anything, and it hardly performed. I put it in with other things that took it over, and that was my fault. And then I put it in other arrangements the next year where I thought it would have more of a fighting chance, and it just did not stand up. Maybe if it was all by itself in a perfect spot.
Well, maybe. It almost feels like it's a fairy garden plant or something, like you plant this and it won't grow much.
Right.
Whereas,
in our experience, I know I've talked to Heidi at Garden Crossings, and she's like, it does great for me.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, everybody has a different experience, and that's what makes it interesting when you can kind of see in different regions how things perform, because weather, climate, where you locate it,
soil
how it's being watered, everything, plays into how these things are growing and how well they do. So that one just, didn't cut it for me, but there were a lot that did great last year. Like the Supertunia Mini Vesta Yellow. If you see it, get it. It's such a good plant. The Supertunia Persimmon, it's not even a Vista, and it still performed really well. I got really big.
Really punchy.
Yeah, and I was unsure of the color of that one. I'm like, I don't know. This is kind of bright. Mm-hmm. Like, it's a little on the warm side and bright, but I loved that plant. That was so fun. Stephanie said, on your salvia, if it's in the ground, do you cut those back at some point? In our zone 8, it bloomed through November and then got hit by cold and looked terrible. The salvias in this video that I was talking about are annual for us, so they are pulled. We don't ever cut them back. We just plant them, let them grow and be beautiful, and then once a frost takes them, you pull them out. Tracy said, love these combos. Since you use a drip system, are you saying those of us without that should water every day? Yes.
Unless it rains.
Yeah, unless you get a lot of rain. They do need moisture every day. And it depends on how much rain you get too. I think like when it rains here, unless it's like a gully washer type rain, it's not enough rain to actually saturate the root ball, because a lot of it's deflected off of foliage and it runs away from the root ball. So you can't really, like here, you can't really rely on rain to be a good source of water. So it kind of depends on frequency and how much and all of that. ALW said, will you be planting the one plant pots again? I'm so curious to know how you really felt about them and how they performed, and if you were truly impressed enough to replant them again. Well, I think after that first year, this was all Erin's idea. After that first year, I was impressed enough to try it again next year. You picked out all the plants both times, right?
Yeah, I didn't put enough thought into it this last year. And
you were just picking off of what we had on hand.
Yeah, I didn't, it wasn't like stuff that I had picked, pre-ordered or whatever, which is kind of, I feel like you do better if you can pre-order stuff or, look through. I'm kind of over it in that location.
Yeah.
I do think that we should do like one plant per pot stuff other places. And I think the hay racks will sort of take that place this next year because we'll be able to try a bunch of stuff in those. So I think we should move all those pots out and do something different.
We're going to do something different in front of the greenhouse this year for sure. As far as what I thought, I think the first year they did better. And this last year, there's always like standout ones too, things that just did way better than others. Like the first year, I think we had a sunflower in one of them, and the sunflowers kind of like they got some kind of a borer. Remember, there was like larvae inside the stems, and they kind of petered a little bit. This last year, the sedum, lemon coral, both rotted out on the bottom, and so those left, and I had to plant something new in there. But the Supertunias we did, I can't even remember all the plants that we did, but there were some that just were stunners and some that we learned a little bit about. And then we maybe should have been a little more hands-on. So they're all on drip. We could have avoided the lemon coral issue had we been watching it a little bit closer probably, but...
Yeah. A lot of those pots are really small too.
Yeah.
And I don't know that a lot of the plants that we were putting in them probably are too big for the size of pot that they were in. I'm
kind of in the mood to clear stuff and have more simplicity a little bit too. So I think that's the direction we're going to go. Except for the hay racks.
Yeah.
Patricia said, I'm in Portland and just love watching you, another Oregonian. I've never been good at fertilizing, but I'm determined to improve this year. What fertilizer would you recommend? We use on our annual containers, and I should have talked about this in the video, and I don't know why. I'm sorry about that. We use the Proven Winners water-soluble plant food. It has the EDDHA chelated iron in it, which for us is vital to keep our plants green and happy. A lot of water solubles, they might have EDTA, which is not the type of chelated iron that is like taken up and utilized really quickly. It's
not in higher pH soils.
Right. It's very interesting, all of that. But the Proven Winners one just like hits it right where we need it. So that's what we use. Paul actually has everything on a weekly fertilizing schedule. We got a big 150 gallon tank and pull it behind the gator, and it's got its own like battery operated pump, so we can just water it. We've really streamlined the process, and I think like I would be horrid at fertilizing if it wasn't easy.
Yeah,
I really would be. This is how I keep track of this. The studio in here was fertilized Saturday, December the 17th, and then I fertilized it Wednesday, February the 1st.
Nice.
So I meant to do it every month, but I was off by a couple of weeks. And that's how I keep track, both in here, and then I've got a list for the Hartley, and I have no list for inside the house. My poor inside house plants suffer. Carolyn said, can you tell us how much water through the drip system do the containers get each day? I unfortunately do something so wrong, and they always die. You know what? We have different amount of emitters per pot. We typically use the brown drip tubing with the holes every 6 inches.
Yeah.
And we just do enough to curl around like the interior of the pot, but in a way. It's not right around the lip. In like 3 inches or so?
The reason it wouldn't be helpful to know that information, we don't know that information, and I don't know that the person asking would be able to even figure that out either. Like how much water was flowing through. Like do they have a meter that meters out the flow?
Well, I think just in general.
We don't.
I think in general, maybe knowing like if we used how many emitters per what inch of pot, how long do we run the system?
Yeah.
I don't know that that'd be really hard to calculate how much we go through with our containers just alone. But we typically run stuff for 15 minutes a day is where we start for containers. And we use the brown drip tubing that just curls around once in the inside of the pot, usually right on the inside of the layer of plants that go around the exterior of the pot. So I don't know if that's helpful at all, but
yeah, it depends.
A hard one.
It depends. I mean, like a small, this size pot, you'd probably want one emitter in there. Something like this, maybe 2 or 3.
If you were using individual emitters. Or if you're using the brown stuff. And it depends on what you plant in there too. If you're planting something that's water hungry or grows really fast, you're going to have to have a 1 gallon emitter in there instead of a half gallon.
Yeah.
Which was probably what the lemon coral needed.
For us, we get over 100 and it's dry. It's not humid. So, but if it's over 100 for you and it's humid, it probably is different.
Yeah.
So there's just and is it windy?
Right.
We water twice a day typically when it's over 100 for annual containers because it's so dry and windy. But
it is such a hard question to answer.
Yeah, you just have to make sure that stuff stays moist, but not you don't want it to be muddy.
Randy said, would you consider doing a Grow With Me container recipe using plants from a big box store most of us can purchase from? It would be fun to see updates from across your viewers too. That would be a fun one.
It's a good idea. I don't think that box stores will all carry the same stuff, because I know like ours locally in like the Boise area, or even here, they order from Olson's, which we've had grow our plants too.
Yeah, they do a great job.
But like Olson's isn't nationwide. Like I know that they're in Utah and here in Boise, but
there's probably some similarities though. Like you could probably find wave petunias. You know, you could probably find.
I don't know. I don't even know if you can. Yeah. I know Proven Winners, I think they limit box stores to like eight varieties, maybe
10.
Might be 10, but I know Proven Winners wants to promote independent garden centers more,
which I love that.
Yeah. And so you can, an independent garden center can buy the full line, whereas box stores are a little bit more limited to just a few varieties.
We'd need to see a list of varieties that are available like everywhere.
It's a really good idea.
Yeah.
In practice though, and then there's always going to be people who are like, well, I don't have a Lowe's nearby, or you know what I mean. So I don't know.
Dreamy Garden 2000 said, can you do a video of container combinations from plants you grew yourself from seed that don't require lots of fertilizer, are native and pollinator friendly? I also think that is a good idea.
That's what we could do, is we could do something, because seeds are accessible.
Yeah.
Although some people don't like growing from seed because it's a lot of work. But
some are not a lot of work though.
You could do like a viewer thing, based on seeds, because you could order those.
Right. We'll mull that one over.
Yeah.
Cecilia said, is there a rule of thumb as to the number of plants you put in a container? Yes. I'm cautious about crowding them and stunting their growth. Yeah. Okay. So for example, in this video, I talked about one of the planters that was one of my most favorites last year. Wasn't even at our house. It was down at the college. I planted, 10 plants. And I think it was like 16-inch deep, 68-inch long. I mean, pretty good size rectangular planter. When I got done, I was kind of like, because I like things to be full. I mean, you guys know I like things to be full from the very beginning, but I knew these plants, they were going to get full sun all day. They're on the south side of the building. They're going to get a lot of heat, a lot of radiant heat, and I knew that they would explode. And just 1 month later, we went down for a update tour, and the planter just was so full and gorgeous. By the end of the season, I don't know if we have like an ending shot, but they were already touching. I think they were about touching the ground. It was just amazing. So, it depends on what you're growing, because if you grow a Supertunia Vista bubblegum versus like a Supertunia limoncello, totally different. Totally different growth rates. So it really does depend on the varieties you choose. If you're doing any kind of Vista Supertunia, just give them their space. Any kind of Ipomea, sweet potato vine, give them their space. Superbenas need space.
I think if you're on a budget, you should just lean on the less plant side.
So get the ones that are more aggressive, that are more vigorous, will fill in.
Because I think a lot of times they'll surprise you with how big they can get. So that would be my suggestions. Like if you're like, should I do 2 or 3? Just do 2. See what happens.
Supertunia Vista Snowdrift.
Yeah.
That's a big one. And a Superbena Whiteout.
Yeah.
Imperial Blue.
Did you already say sweet potato vines?
Yeah.
Get huge.
Yeah, they do, like bushes. Some of them are like, we didn't really expect that this last year, but they were just like little like shrubs.
Right.
Yeah. I love that one though. I love the clean lines of the leaves. I feel like when there's a lot of things going on in areas or containers, I don't want a highly lobed plant.
Right.
Because it's too busy. It's too much. I feel like there needs to be some, almost like a hosta kind of feel in there. And that Sweetheart Lime brings it.
I don't feel like we've had really any issue with our sweet potato vines recently with burning. They seem like they're all like really lush and like the tips aren't burning. Where, Prince Tut and King Tut, like they always brown out on the edges.
Queen Tut did not.
Yeah,
Queen Tut is a baller grass. I love that plant.
Yeah.
That's another one to get. That's a brand new one.
Yeah. So some tend to brown for us on the edges, but sweet potato vine recently hasn't been for us.
No, it's been really nice. Okay, next video was planting so many onions and shallots. I ended up planting so many because I've totally spaced planting one of my varieties, and instead of just planting 2 trays, I ended up having to plant 3. One of the things I forgot to mention in the video, I did mention the different ways you can plant onions, from seed, from plants already pre-grown, and then from sets. And I didn't mention that the way I was growing them is the way that you would like a grower grows them and then you buy them at the garden center, and they come like multiple plants per cell, which is how I planted them. I saw a lot of questions about like, what are you going to do once all of these seed, like why did you plant so many seeds in that cell? Well, because you grow them up and then you take them out and separate them all and plant them straight out in the garden. Like you knock all the soil off pretty much and just like pull the roots apart. And I just kind of spaced mentioning that. So anyway, we got some really fun new varieties. There's a Newburgh onion, 2 varieties of shallot, candy Walla Wallas, and yellow sweet Spanish. Oh my word. So I'm planning to give some of the plants away to friends and family who are growing gardens this year before I even plant them out, because that'll be a lot. We still have quite a number in our root cellar too, and they're keeping beautifully in there this year. Melissa said, what was the lighter topsoil she sprinkled on top? That was vermiculite, and that helps a lot with moisture retention and also things like damping off, which is a fungus that attacks young seedlings. Sometimes you'll have a seedling come up and it almost looks like somebody took a pincher and just like pinches the base of the seedling and it just flops right over. It kind of helps eliminate that because it's helping control moisture. It also helps with algae growth, and it's been a bit of a game changer for me. I top a lot of my stuff with vermiculite. Yeah. Diane said, easy crop to grow, but I can never get mine huge like yours. I'm in zone 3, pick my variety for my zone, start seeds, but they just never get huge. Okay, so so you add bone meal and fertilize with an all-purpose. When we prep them to put them outside, I do land and seed compost, which is also a game changer, huge difference in my stuff. And Biotone starter fertilizer. We heavily amend the area where I plant them with that, and that's actually the only fertilizer they get all season. You might, if depending on your soil type, you might need to fertilize them more. Alliums in general are heavy feeders, so I would use a starter fertilizer to get them going, and then you can go in with your all-purpose once or twice just to give them an extra boost. Now our area is like conducive for growing onions, is that right? It's what's grown in a lot of the fields around here: onions, sugar beets, field corn. Trying to think potatoes, alfalfa. Yeah, but a lot of onion fields around here because our area grows them really nicely, and I think it's because it's dry, hot, long days. They grow up really nice. I think the sign on the barn, the red barn out to my parents, said it's like over 1 billion pounds of onions from our valley every year.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Fung said, any thoughts on whether it's worth succession planting onions and asking about spring/green onions rather than bulbing onions? I would like a nice harvest, but not all at once, as we can't eat them all. Anyone try that for green onions? You know, the way you can plant onions, if you plant them really close together, you can harvest out, like thin them out as green onions and just leave one every 4 or 6 inches or so and let those bulb up. So you can kind of plant the same crop and use them 2 different ways if you want. I don't know about growing through the hot part of the summer, but I think you could get away with maybe a couple of successive crops. Maybe like plant one and then 2 weeks later plant the next one, so that you've got a little bit of difference there. But in the heat, they may try to bolt. We usually are harvesting ours out sometime in July, like before like the dog days of summer sets in. Elizabeth said, I planted 500 onion seeds in a tray a month ago. They had domes on them and were in grow light system my husband built. Only one of them sprouted. Any ideas on what could have gone wrong? Oh geez. Well, if they dried out, if your seed was really old, 500 seeds, only having one come up, there's got to be something else wrong in there. I would think even with older seeds, you would have better luck than that. I would say they either rotted out or didn't get enough water, maybe heat. You can provide some bottom heat to get them going. Do you have any thoughts? You seem like you have thoughts on that.
I was thinking back to that meme that was like, here's what went wrong. You either watered too much or you didn't water enough, or they got too much sun or not enough sun, or they got too much heat or not enough heat.
Not a helpful answer.
Or they got too much cold or not enough cold. Yeah. So there you go. That's what could have happened.
Yeah. So just, figure that one out.
Yeah.
Tracy said, who else wants Laura to share her meal plan? I actually started one last night. We got to the end of the meal plan yesterday, and I started a new one last night. I think I've got four meals down. I do try my best to have a meal plan every week, and then we get all the groceries except for anything that needs to be super fresh. And as long as I have a plan and I have the ingredients on hand, I enjoy cooking a lot, and I love to cook dinner. And I do try to make time for that most of the time. If I don't have a plan, it's just like, who knows, I did see something about, do your kids eat the same things you're eating? variations of. Like I'll make spaghetti, I guess. Most kids really love spaghetti. Samantha loves it, but Benjamin wants like the littlest amount of sauce. So I'll vary it that way, but they're essentially eating the same thing we are. I add more fruit to their plates though, because they like bananas and those little mandarin oranges and strawberries. And I feel like whenever I can add in something fresh like that, I do. Even if I'm not eating strawberries with my spaghetti, they still enjoy it. Okay, last video from this week, DIY Pretty Wood potting tray. That was a really fun project. I wanted to get another one of my green plastic potting trays because, I do projects in here. We do them in the greenhouse, we do them in the Hartley. And while it's not a big deal to pack it from one location to the other, it's just one extra step. And I thought, I don't really want to set up a potting area in the Hartley that's not pretty. I know that sounds weird because the plastic tray works great and I've used it in there, but I thought I could probably build something that's a little bit prettier that will serve the same purpose, but I can just leave it out and have it look nice with everything in there. And I think that this worked out. It's not like professional or perfect. I mean, you can see all the screws. That's why I chose dark gray ones. I'm not like a woodworking professional. We've bought a lot of tools along the way. And I bought that thing where you can make the holes for the screw and then
Craig jig.
Yeah, is that what it's called? I haven't even tried it yet. I've owned it for like 5 years, and I've not even one time tried to use it. I really need to hone my skills, but it's holding together and it's tough. I think that it's going to be great. Yolande said, great project and thanks for sharing. Did you post the measurements? Measurements are in the video. I think I did mention that you could just pause the video and take a screenshot if you wanted to get those measurements. Lisa said, I've been wanting a potting tray and haven't been able to find one locally. Why do I never think of making these things? I'm totally capable. Yes, you are. I love yours and I can't wait to make mine. That's exciting. Tag me on social media if you have a way to do that. I would love to see how yours turns out. GP said, do you seal the bottom with a wood sealer? You absolutely can. I did not with mine just because I did use the plastic wood in the seams, even though for the most part I don't even think that was necessary. I don't keep water in that. I do add water in to pre-moisten my soil, but the soil wicks that moisture right up, and I don't ever have standing water in there. And I for the most part, use all my product up, all my soil up. And then it's not like sitting in there for days and days. So I wasn't super worried about it, but you could use a lacquer, an outdoor polyurethane, something like that. And that would settle into all those seams as well and provide like better water protection for the wood and all of that. Get more longevity out of it for sure. Julie said, at first glance, I thought you had used a drawer to make this. That would work too, wouldn't it? Cut the angles on an old wooden drawer and it's done. Yes, that would work great. That's a great idea. And you can get like different poles for the side or handles for the side. I like that idea a lot. Mary said, are you at all concerned about splinters while scooping and mixing the soil with the wooden tray? No. I use the back side of those trim boards. The front side that looks prettier is a little bit more rough. The back side is smooth as can be, but I did sand everything really well and it's soft. Even the front side is nice and soft. I was running my hands on the whole thing and it feels great. I also got that wax, the Howard citrus wax, and if you put that on the wood, it softens it up and it makes it feel really nice. Diane said, you pour water right into the soil every time you pot up something. How long will this last doing that? Should last for a very long time because like I said, I use the soil up and it's not sitting in there. And Ron said, here's a question I would love Laura to answer. Is Erin ever impressed with your crafty building skills? I don't know, Erin. Are you impressed?
I am super impressed. I'm more impressed at how hard of a worker you are. I feel like you have like a can-do attitude. I wish I had more of that because I'm more of like a planner, and I'll tackle things as long as I've just like fully exhausted. It's kind of like I won't make a chess move until like I know that I can get checkmate. So I'll like think about things for a long time. Whereas you're like, no, just do it.
Yeah, we tried to play chess with each other a couple days ago. I'm like, move, let's go. Like, I want you to move your piece because I'm ready. Like, as soon as you're done, I just move a piece. And I don't think like however many steps ahead of myself.
Yeah.
Which is bad.
Yeah.
So we have a clock thing now. Like you only get how many seconds or minutes per turn.
Yeah.
Instead of sitting there and studying it forever. I'm not a huge chess player. I don't love it, but Erin loves it. You play a lot of chess.
Well, only I got into it recently in the last like 2 weeks or whatever. My brother's really good.
Yes, he is. He goes to competitions.
So I'm not good at chess. Like
you're better than me.
I'm not even sure that's true. I enjoy chess, but so like I looked it up, and I don't know if this is. I'm not like super into chess, so I don't know. But I know like one of the best players, Magnus Carlsen, is rated like 2,800 something. My brother is rated 1,500 something or 1,600 something, so he's pretty good. And I'm rated like 500 something. So that's the range of where.
You know what? As long as you're enjoying it. And I bet you that number will improve too over time.
Perhaps.
Yeah, it will, for sure. I wonder, like, people that get rated really high, does it just cut? Well, I know it probably in some way comes naturally, but I wonder how much studying and like studying people's moves and like knowing different scenarios and studying those scenarios.
Yeah, I think that there's certain openings that, you know, you can like trick your opponent, sort of like kind of bait them into doing moving certain pieces. And then
I think you try to do that to me.
I think it's called like forking, where you get into a position where like they have to choose which piece they're going to lose. And I think that a lot of that can go into it. But if your opponent also knows what you're trying to bait them into, then they don't fall for it. So I don't know.
Seems like a lot of thinking.
Yeah. Well, some people like to do that.
That's true. I would rather go out and cut some wood.
Yeah.
So, the thinking on the math part of it, which should be so simple. I'm like, ugh. And I write stuff down multiple times and I remeasure and oh my mercy. Yeah. I get confused really easy because oftentimes too, I'm doing more than one version. Like I do a prototype to see if it even is something worth tackling. Like if I feel like it's going to hold together and be a good project to share with you guys. Cause I don't want to share something that I feel like it's going to fall apart or it's just not quite up to par or whatever. And then I'll like slightly fix something for the second version. And I'll get my measurements messed up because I'm so like used to thinking about the measurements for the first one. Yeah. I'm like, wait, I didn't cut this one right, but it's a different version. All of those things.
It's tough when you're filming videos too, because you kind of have to do it right the first time. Yeah. Because if you don't, and you're like fixing a mistake, that's not a big deal. You have to explain that in the video, like because if you're watching it, you're like, why did she do it that way? It's like, well, you have to go to the effort of explaining. I didn't mean to do it that way, but here's what I did to fix it. And it's sort of the whole fix is irrelevant anyway because you don't notice. You know, so it's just more difficult.
Also, like thinking of the right tools and the right procedure, you better believe don't do it off camera. I mean, I just fly into a project and I use whatever tool is closest to me, even if it's not proper. Some of the cuts you were like, why aren't you using a circular saw instead of a jigsaw? You're going to get a much better cut. I'm like, that's because that's the saw I got out. Yeah. So I have to, like when we film videos, I do try, like I got the circular saw because you were right. And I thought, you know, I need to try to do this as proper as possible, you know, because I don't know, but I just don't think like that.
Sure.
So it's a little bit, those are hard.
It's irrelevant because you get a ton of stuff done.
No.
So.
But maybe not properly. Anyway, the tray works and
awesome.
I like it. And that is it, you guys, for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. I am going to go pick out some plants, so I will see you guys in the next video.